Hello everybody. I figured I'd talk more about the specifics of the fix that Lord Devious put in and what it does. It does both more and less than I thought. So first off, because it is a program class rather than a programming block class, you can't actually access the class that he created from outside of the program. So for example, you can now access your programming block from inside of your program, but you can't access your program from your programming block. That's an important distinction because it means that the storage class can't be used to transfer information between two programming blocks. So I can't call a programming block from a programming block and then check its storage value. Normally I would just update the custom name, but unfortunately the custom name is something which only updates between frames. So that means that there's no way to call a programming block and then have it instantly respond. You have to wait a frame, which is a little bit obnoxious, but whatever. This is made a little bit more difficult because you can't work around it by using recursive calls, which I'll explain in a second. So what I'm doing right now is I'm running around from place to place, and I am collecting all of my materials, all of my programming blocks. I'm just going to each ship and I'm registering the programming blocks, and that will let me directly access them. I plan to make it so you can draw a map which points to all the programming blocks you have on record and a couple of other details. But I have heard that this will be I've heard that this is considered a bug and will be closed. So we will find out in the long run whether or not I have to do this some other way, but that's okay. I can always do it through laser antennas like I was doing before if I need to. So here you can see I've got all of my programming blocks. And I can select and all that stuff. I'm in DX11 right now because I was doing some testing and some recording, so this button doesn't have DX11 stuff yet. Such a shame. Anyhow, you can see that Ratatosk is ready to call out to these other programming blocks. Even if we're not connected, he can still access them and talk to them. He can also access and talk to any of the other blocks on those networks, however he would like. He doesn't need to. He doesn't need to go through the programming blocks only. But the programming blocks are the important part. Now let me show you some of the details about how this works and what it does. First off, when it comes to calling a programming block from within another programming block, it's actually a little bit difficult. So let me go ahead and find where I do that. Here it is. So if you are calling yourself, it's pretty easy. You just call main and you pass it the argument you'd like to pass it. Pretty obvious, right? It's just a function and you hit it up. But if you want to call someone else, there is no method called main or run or anything like that. So what you actually have to do is create a list of arguments and then add the argument that you'd like to use, and then use this apply action method, which I think is largely undocumented. I certainly haven't seen it around before, but it's a very powerful new tool for me, so I'm happy to see it. And what this means is that you can pass in whatever argument you need to pass in. And this is some very special syntax, and I will link you to the actual forum on that particular. There's a forum post on that particular thing. It also requires you to set up the args list. Now the storage variable is accessed from in here, so I could go ahead and set the storage variable however I would like. And it'll work fine. The big advantage of the storage variable is that it survives saving and loading. So this is what you should use if you need to have data that survives saving and loading, rather than simply exporting it to an LCD as I have been. Unfortunately, that storage variable is not visible from outside of your program. I can't access it from another programming block because this programming block has no way to access the actual program class on the other programming block. Therefore, to pass data back and forth, you still have to use an intermediary, whether it's an LCD screen or the name, the custom name, or something else. You have to still pass data back and forth, and that's a shame. Also, this here has some serious limits. You can't use this to call yourself, and apparently you can't use it to call yourself recursively either. So, for example, if I were to call out and pass as an argument the name of my block, and then they were to attempt to run this same call backwards on me to get me to run, apparently that would fail. I haven't tested it very carefully, but there are some safeguards in effect to try and keep you from doing any kind of recursive stuff like that. So it's rough to try and get this to be as flexible as you'd like, but still it's a very powerful system. In addition, having the run command be abstracted out is valuable because later on you can adapt this if they ever fix this problem, or if you've just loaded up and don't have actual direct access anymore. You can still use an intermediary such as a laser antenna. Alright, well, I think that was more or less it. There are some other changes that he made to the programming blocks, but those are the big ones. Have a good one.